shortly. Thank you.
Let me get back.
Joy. Can't hear you. Yeah. There you go. Handle that thing. But yeah. I would have took the train if it was just a sheriff, but it ain't just a sheriff.
It's
a
4 other
few.
people.
Yeah, so she was trying to sell that, and I started to say.
Well, we're not prepared for that.
I started to say, who are you trying to tell?
We don't have the
You
questions.
might, but that would have been, we would have to take their questions. But anyways, that's gone.
The mics are hot. Be careful what we say.
All right. I'm gonna actually have to sit.
So you're going to do the general. I'm doing specific.
Mm-hmm. And I got my first question right there. If we don't have any audience questions at this time. It's a wrap.
So 2 general. You do a general. I do a general.
If they go fast.
Okay, so you
General, then go to specific.
Mm-hmm.
Make them feel good.
Good evening and welcome to this nonpartisan candidate forum on today, Thursday, April the 21st, 2022. And we are so glad to have each and every one here. We thank you to the audience. Thank you to every candidate that took the opportunity to come out. We know that this is going to be an informative session, and we're looking forward to meeting our candidates and finding out more about you. So we're going to, first of all, we want to say welcome to each and every one that's here on this evening. We will ask Ms. Doris Bailey to please come and open us up with a word of prayer.
Good evening. Greetings and blessings to Ms. Akila Thigpen, WBIS AwesomeRadio 106.9 family, to the state and federal candidates, United States Senate, North Carolina Senate, United States Congress, and the North Carolina House of Representatives. Let us please have a moment of silence in respect to our brothers and sisters in Ukraine. Let us pray. Father, we come to you, who is our helper, our hope, our teacher, and our guide. Without you, we can do nothing, but with you and through you, we can do all things. It is by your grace and your mercies that we are here today, and for that, we say thank you. Father, we thank you for our political leaders, for those who are in position and authority, and for those who are running for positions. We ask that you give us people who are after your heart. We ask that you will lead us by your wisdom, your knowledge, how to make a prudent decision on who we should elect to lead us. Father, we thank you always for giving us this right to cast our vote on May 17th, 2022. And this is our prayer in the holy and mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey, for that beautiful prayer. Again, this is a nonpartisan friendly forum event. It's not a debate. And we will not tolerate character attacks from candidate to candidate, from audience to candidate, from moderator to candidate, from candidate to moderator. No campaigning inside the forum room. No handing out campaign literature inside the forum room. No campaign signs, banners inside the forum room. These activities may be done in the lobby or outdoors, but not in the actual forum room. If there is only one candidate on the platform, then that candidate will have the floor for 10 minutes, to include the 1-minute introduction and the 1-minute closing. The timekeeper will be seated on the floor directly in front of the candidates to set the time on the digital clock. If the candidate is in the middle of a sentence when the time buzz, they will be allowed to complete those 1 to 2 sentences. They will be warned. If candidate continues to speak past their time, then the moderator will bring order back. Order of generic questions from left to right, then right to left. 1-minute timed introduction left to right from each candidate on the platform. Questions from the audience, if applicable. Ushers will collect the questions and proofread before handing to the moderators. If no questions from the audience, then moderators will ask their prepared questions. 2-minute timed response from each candidate. 1-minute timed closing remarks, right to left, from each candidate. The cutoff time for the first half for audience questions to be submitted will be at 6:50 p.m. The cutoff time for the second half for audience questions to be submitted will be 8:15 p.m. If an unconfirmed candidate shows up and or a confirmed candidate is late, they will be allowed to participate only if that candidate race platform is not currently underway. If the candidate race platform is already underway, then the pop-up candidate will not be allowed to participate. However, the candidate will be asked to stand and announce themselves. They will not have a mic. During the transition times, if there are any elected officials present who does not have an election in 2022 or may be a Pitt County Board of Education official, they will be asked to stand and announce themselves. They will not have a mic. And now the moderators for this evening, the first half, will be Mr. Vernon Garrison, investigative reporter and talk show host of WBIS Awesome Radio, and Reverend Andra Cunningham, pastor of Greater Glory Mission AME Church and talk show host of WBIS Awesome Radio. I now turn it over into your hands.
Thank you. If we could have the candidates take their seats, please. Senate. Thank you, gentlemen and gentle lady. At this time, you will have 1 minute to briefly introduce yourselves. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is James L. Carr Jr., U.S. Senate candidate. I'll get straight to the point. I believe that it is the job of the representative to not only to address today's issues, but also preparing for tomorrow's opportunity. That means that we have to create win-win opportunities for the American people. Sorry, that means that we have to create win-win opportunities for the American people. I believe that we create win-win opportunities by basically investing in 4 pillars. One is the protection of civil liberties. The other is investing in infrastructure. The next one is modernizing our educational system. And finally, decoupling benefits from jobs. As we go through the debate, I'll be more clear on how I would go about achieving these goals and meeting the needs of the people so that we create the type of opportunities that allow us to address today's issues while also preparing for tomorrow's opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam?
Hello, my name is Deborah Chovo. I'm a Congolese American citizen. I was born in the Congo and came to America when I was 10 years old. My father was a missionary and we came here for that reason. As a Congolese American citizen, I decided to run for office, one, because I felt a call to do this. Secondly, because of the threats that I've seen growing up in the Congo or being born in the Congo, and I'm seeing similar threats in this nation. And so I'm willing to stand against certain things that I've been seeing. One, against unity, second, against national security, and our education system and so much more. And I would love to elaborate on it as time permits. Thank you so much.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Greg Antoine, and I'm running for the Democratic nomination for the U.S. Senate, here to represent the great state of North Carolina. Like many of you, I'm a product of public education. I am a doctor, I'm a surgeon, I'm an educator, and I'm a veteran of both the United States Navy and the United States Army, retiring as a colonel.
Thank you.
My name's Rhett Newton. I'm a retired Air Force colonel. I'm the former mayor of beautiful Beaufort, North Carolina, and I may not be the demographic that you would figure for a college student, but I'm actually pursuing a PhD at Duke University studying marine science and conservation. I'll tell you that prior to January the 6th of 2021, I was living the dream as a college student and the mayor of a glorious coastal community. But after the insurrection and actions that continue to this day, I just can't sit on the sidelines while our democracy is under attack. So the framework for our campaign is to protect democracy at home and abroad, reverse the effects of climate change that are hurting the state of North Carolina right now, protect our environment, and to help those tens of thousands of North Carolinians that are really struggling right now with lack of affordable health care, affordable housing, food, lack of broadband, and in some cases, transportation. So thank you for allowing me to join you this evening.
All right. Thank you for your introductions. At this time, we'll start our general questioning, and we'll start with you, sir. Inflation has grown around the country, and we all are feeling it in the grocery stores and restaurants and even retail. Now, what will you do as a senator to help bring costs down and lead us into fighting and controlling inflation?
Sure, great question. And this yet again highlights the wage gap that is affecting North Carolinians right now. And it's a structural wage gap where the haves and the have-nots exist. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. And if you have the resources, you can survive storms, you can survive pandemics, you can survive inflation. But it's the people that are stuck in this wage gap that just don't have that same opportunity. So what do? The war in Ukraine means that we may have inflation for an extended period of time, but it doesn't mean that we can't help our most vulnerable citizens. There are things at our fingertips today that we can help those most vulnerable citizens. Expand Medicaid. There's only one hurdle left in expanding Medicaid. That's the North Carolina House, right? Child tax credits will be really effective. Or pull back some of those segments from the Build Back Better Act to help our most vulnerable citizens, to include those child care provisions, right? Universal pre-K or elder care provisions as well. So we can help our most vulnerable citizens. Let's not continue to turn a blind eye. Let's do what we can right now to help those citizens, and it's at our fingertips. Thank you for that question.
You're welcome.
Well, as everyone knows, inflation is a multifactorial problem. So there's multiple inputs into this thing called inflation. Some of the things are self-inflicted. You know, obviously there are businesses that take advantage when times like this occur. The price of oil we can't control. And the other issue associated with inflation is that supply chain is a real problem. I know everyone has heard about supply chain. Well, you know, there used to be something like 30 or 40 major shipping lines that transported goods to our country. They've all been consolidated down to 9 companies. So what does that mean? That means that as the carriers shrink, they can raise their prices, right? They have to pay insurance on their boats. There's also an old antiquated law from 1887 or something, I forget the name of the act, that all ships that come into the American ports have to be flagged under the United States of America. So that we've now constricted that supply chain even further. There's a lot of talk about this act. This act is from like 1887. And let's be clear. Inflation is cyclical. So you're going to get inflation no matter what. There's going to be inflation. There's potential for a recession. Things that we could do, there are states could lower taxes on food, eliminate the food tax, right? They already eliminated on some goods. You can lower the gasoline tax. That puts a few extra dollars. And we have to consider new ways of working. As we do more telework, people have to drive less and they spend less on gas. So that's other ways that we can actually help the working mom and dad by just simple things.
Thank you.
I believe in standing for economic policies that promote economic growth and in helping businesses thrive, especially small businesses in this time. As I was looking over certain policies, I noted that there is some in place that favors some businesses over others. And I would like to be amongst those legislators that would remove those biases and enable all businesses to thrive in this time. And I would definitely love to be a voice for the voiceless. So standing for cost-effective healthcare policies right now. Also, I would love, for the long run, as we all know, inflation is something that's happened before, but putting a spending limit over the state and also over the nation, and saving for situations like this so that when we do have inflation, we're not dealing with some of the crises that we're currently dealing with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is what an example to me of what I mean by addressing today's issues while also preparing for tomorrow's opportunities. We have an inflation problem today because of what happened in 2020. At some point in the mid-2000s, George Bush created pandemic centers to respond to global pandemics. This is something that Trump shut down. And we see the ripple effect of once we got into the pandemic, it affected shipping, it affected all parts of transportation in our country. And now we're dealing with low supply and high demand. So that's why we have an inflation problem. If we want to address it to make sure it doesn't happen again, we have to prepare today. And one of the ways we do that is through infrastructure investments, where we actually look at infrastructure more from the perspective of how do we move goods from point A to point B in our state and across our country. That's one part. And the other part is to link our state together through infrastructure so that we can be more mobile within the state itself. So for job opportunities or pleasure, whatever, we have a mobile workforce, mobile entertainment, whatever we want to do in the state, we can do it because we have the infrastructure in place to do so. And I think, and again, if we go back to what happened in 2020, from the standpoint of auto parts, from the standpoint of drugs, from the standpoint of meat, everything that we experienced in 2020, we're now reaping today in terms of high prices. And so if we want to avoid it, again, it goes back to investing in our infrastructure today so that we can prepare for tomorrow's opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now proceed with individual questions from Reverend Cunningham.
Yes, I'd like to ask some specific questions that are tied to your platform. Starting from left to right, Candidate Carr, you've stated that you believe in the tiered approach to education. Could you elaborate on your views concerning a tiered approach to education and explain how such an approach would be beneficial to this country's educational system?
So I'll go back to my own personal experiences. My dad, so I was adopted, and my dad had served in the Army Air Force when it was still segregated. This was in 1948. And my parents grew up during segregation. And when my dad used to tell me stories about the Air Force, and I just loved those stories. I thought it was just a great place. But their dream for me was to go to college because that was something they were deprived of. When it came time for me to make the decision, I didn't want to go to college. I wanted to go into the Air Force. Now, I later went into the Air Force. I later went on to college and got an accounting degree. But at the time I was 18, I wanted to go into the Air Force. And what I realized with kids today is we have to make sure our kids are living their dreams and not our dreams. And so when I talk about a tiered approach to education, I mean that we start sitting down with kids around the 10th grade where we can collaborate between parents, teachers, and the child to find out what the child wants to do, where the child wants to start their journey in life. And then construct a plan for them. So if it's to go to college, they can go to college. And, we're taking college prep classes, maybe taking community college classes to reduce the cost of education. If they want to go straight into the workforce, do things like work study, apprenticeships, bring in entrepreneurs to talk to kids about transitioning into adulthood. Military careers, of course, ROTC type programs. And so the whole point is, we need to focus more on the child's dreams and where they want to start their life and what our dreams are for them. And that's what I mean by a tiered approach, is preparing the child for their dream and their start in life.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that response. Continuing on, Candidate Chovo, yes. You have stated that a divided nation cannot stand. Could you elaborate on what ideas you may have for unifying our country?
All right, so being from the Congo, or being born in the Congo, I saw there's a lot of different people group, and that is one of the elements that keeps the country from development. And there are different opinions, different views, and people are not willing to actually come together and actually have conversations about hard things or development. And so seeing the same threats here with, the direction our country and different things that have been happening, my approach in standing for unity is not necessarily that we must agree on everything, because of course we are different. But for us to be able to actually come together and face different policies together as a people. And so I would be willing to work for the people, with the people, hear the things that are on the hearts of the people, and to be a voice for them in office. And also just remove any biases or anything that can cause division because we're not seeing eye to eye. So right now, that's what I have on my heart in terms of unity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Candidate Antoine, thank you very much for that. I would like to know, what reforms do you feel are needed to lessen voter fraud and corruption, and what impact would such reforms have on individual voting rights?
So I think the biggest problem right now that I see is voter suppression laws that are being put in place. I think there's like 48 states that have already put very restrictive things in place. I think there's another 7 that are putting laws in place that even after you've cast your ballot may not count. So ballot integrity, along with access to vote, are 2 key things that federal law needs to be implemented, because we've already seen some secretaries of states in Arizona where he said that if he had been Secretary of State, he would have tossed out some of the legitimate ballots that were in Arizona. So ballot integrity, along with ensuring everyone's vote is counted, are major things that have to be implemented and put in place, because the states, we wouldn't have the division that we have now if the states proportionately shared the districts the way they're supposed to be. Take, for example, a state like Mississippi, where 37% of the population is African American, and what, they have 4 or 5 representatives in the state government. So that's anti-democratic to me. The gerrymandering is a real problem. You know, people are having fun with the gerrymandering at the expense of others, primarily African Americans, people of color, and the poorest people who may not have high literacy rates. Just look at what happened recently in Houston, Texas, and Harris County. I think like 30 or 40% of the ballots that were cast via mail-in were either returned or disqualified. No drop-off places. Georgia has implemented laws where you can't even give anybody a drink of water. Now that goes beyond ridiculous. That's silly. So you have to have federal legislation that controls at least some of the nonsense that is going on, because it's sheer nonsense. I mean, come on. You can't have a population of 37% of the people and you have 4 or 5 representatives in the state government.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for that response. Candidate Newton, as a marine scientist, what legislative reforms can you suggest to improve conditions for low-income and regional communities that have been impacted by climate change and pollution?
Well, certainly minorities are most impacted by the effects of climate change, right? So my record as a marine scientist and as a mayor for protecting our environment is pretty extensive. A massive cleanup after Hurricane Florence, fixing infrastructure so that we start to reduce the amount of toxins going into our waterways, opposing offshore oil exploration and drilling, and we were fortunate we got lucky there. But let's talk about things that others aren't really talking about. The forever chemicals in the Cape Fear River, in the Haw River, in the Neuse River. We have the expertise in North Carolina to analyze these forever chemicals. You may hear about PFAS, polyfluoroalkyl substances that are there forever, and it's in our drinking water right now. So we need to be able to analyze this. Drinking water is fundamental to our life, right? But this is disproportionately affecting minorities. So we need to get our best scientists in to analyze the extent of this problem and then look for solutions to mitigate that. So again, I'm very proud of my environmental record, and I'll take that to Washington with me, and we'll do that not only for North Carolina, but across the United States. Thank you.
Thank you.
Panel, thank you very much for complying to our time restraints. We have, I believe, time for one general question, and then we'll be closing. Some expect the Supreme Court to overturn Roe versus Wade. Where do you stand on that? And as states are now employing more and more restrictions on abortion clinics, specifically, where do you stand on that issue?
Okay. Specifically, I am in favor of female reproductive rights, period, dot, end of story. If you want to reduce abortions, then make sure that you don't drive it underground. Make sure that you help to support Planned Parenthood as well. And with our medical system, we're kind of in an emergency mode for people that are stuck in this wage gap. Let's make sure that we reform our healthcare system so that especially females are getting healthcare before, during, and after pregnancy. Thank you for that question.
Well, I'm a physician, so I'm an advocate for patient privacy. I think what happens between a patient is between the patient and their doctor and their family. So that's where I come down. And what was the other part of the question?
Well, how do you feel about the restrictions on abortion clinics and some of them even being closed?
Okay, yeah. So I have seen infection, okay? So it's a terrible thing to watch people die from infections. You're gonna drive this sort of procedure underground. You're gonna have a spike in infection problems. You'll have a spike in deaths. You'll not only, the thing that you tried to prevent initially, death, potentially is gonna lead to death to a certain percentage of those patients that have the procedure done. So preventing an abortion, again, as I said, that's between the patient and her doctor. And I'm concerned about it being driven underground. And, if I was a woman, I'd be angry as hell that all these laws are being put in place by men. But there seems to be a following amongst a certain segment of the female population that are going along with it. But, you know, men would have a real problem if you were told that after 2 kids, you'd have to get a vasectomy. Nobody would want that.
Thank you.
I personally believe in life and believe that women should have options when it comes to life and adoption, and that promoting that more so. And this is where I stand on this issue. Thank you.
I'm actually advocating for a privacy bill of rights. And by that, I mean that we have the right to our own bodies, the right to love who we want to love, and the right to defend ourselves. I think we keep going down this path of thinking that we can pass laws to enforce morality. Government can pass anything the government touches is going to either be legal or illegal. It's not going to be moral or immoral. We saw from slavery, Underground Railroad, we saw prohibition. Of course, people violating that law. I grew up in a dry county in Lexington, North Carolina, and we used to go to, my parents used to go to Salisbury to get alcohol and bring it back to Lexington. You cannot legislate morality. And if you look at what's going on in Texas, not only are they making it harder to get an abortion, but then they're threatening to pass laws that, well, number one, they've already passed a law that allows citizens to spy on each other. Now, I would argue that that law in and of itself will definitely be something from a traffic violation perspective that a lot of states will adopt. Of course, California is going to look at adopting it with guns. And so when you look at trying to deprive somebody of privacy rights has a ripple effect for all rights. And we're seeing we're getting to the point where in Texas, again, that if someone goes outside of the state and gets an abortion, they can be arrested when they come back into the state. We're going to lose our rights over trying to deprive someone of a right. There are better ways that we can deal with this situation. Trying to do it through government is not the answer. Doing it through our churches and our other communities is the answer. We need to, I am a Christian and I am a pro-choice Christian, and I do believe that this is an issue for the church. That is my personal opinion. And I would argue that getting an abortion, to me, if you're going to have the right to take a pill or use natural family planning to prevent life, that to me is the moral equivalent of taking life, because the argument is, I don't want a child. And so we need to value life, and that needs to start with the church and not with the government. Thank you.
All right, we now have a very brief moment for closing remarks. And I believe it's 1 minute. Thank you very much. And we'll start from right to left.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. The best predictor of future success is past success. If you look at my record with a crisis management, I've responded to 9/11, responded to 2004 tsunami in South Asia, responded to hurricanes, responded to a pandemic. If you believe that climate change is one of our greatest challenges, no other candidate has had to deal with the effects of climate change as a mayor, but also as a scientist understanding the human impacts. I'm very proud of my environmental record, as we've already discussed. Well, let's talk about global affairs. In Ukraine, wouldn't you want to have a senator who understands what a no-fly zone, understands the nuances of air defense, understands what a MiG-29 is, can and can't do, or the extensive humanitarian assistance that goes along with a tragedy like this, or fixing infrastructure, or passing through our town staff $15 minimum wage, and it works. And then being able to work with moderate Republicans to make things happen. The best predictor of future success is past success. Again, thank you for letting me join you.
Yes, sir.
If voter suppression, access to health care for our military and veterans, women's health, criminal justice reform, and underfunding in public education continues to go on unchecked, all we have fought for up to this very minute is in jeopardy. I believe that extreme shifts and division of both political parties has led to gridlock around the work that needs to be done to prepare our country for the future. This division has led to increased racial tension and anti-democratic behavior that is threatening our very existence, both as a country and as a leader for others around the world to emulate. I will work to pull us back to the middle where most Americans want to be. I will secure your right to vote, shore up our democracy, attack violent crime, expand healthcare access, and secure the essentials needed to educate our youth and close the academic achievement gap that has plagued our public education system for years.
Thank you.
I've worked in government and politics for about 5 years around environmental issues throughout different government agencies, as well as military association, advocating in Senate and in Congress for military benefits and rights and different things on the national and international level. I've worked with different presidents through the United Nations as well as in this nation. And I've seen a lot was exposed to me at a very young age, right after college. And I've seen policymakers and people in office say one thing, and when they get elected, they do the very opposite. And I've seen policymakers who mean well, but once they're in office, they're not able to deliver. And with the crisis in our nation right now, I don't believe that trusting in our own wisdom and understanding will be the only element in solving the issues, but really relying on God and trusting in Him, and more than ever praying for our nation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one overarching goal if I'm elected, and that is to empower everyone to follow the dreams and aspirations you have for your own life. And that means, so again, getting back to protection of privacy rights, infrastructure investments, modernizing the educational system, and decoupling benefits from jobs all lead to that empowerment. And especially if we didn't talk about healthcare, but I do believe we need to decouple the relationship so that we don't have to have a job in order to get good benefits. We need a mobile entrepreneurial society, and we can only get there by decoupling that relationship. And so everything that I would do if I'm elected will be towards that end. I know that there are some who don't believe that, who are fearful of what people can do with individual rights. I'm not one of those individuals. I believe that if we raise a society of dreamers, we don't have to worry about people who dream. People who dream don't do bad things. People who dream get up in the morning ready to pursue whatever that opportunity is for them in their lives. We create a nation of dreamers, we will be able to tackle any issues that we have in our society. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We would now like the candidates for the U.S. House of Representatives to District 1 to take their seat.
We had a phenomenal start. Thank you to all of the candidates. And while we are transitioning, we would like for you to know that to my right, we have a refreshment table for our candidates. And if you will look to my right, to the far back, we do have refreshments for our audience on tonight as well. So we are thankful and grateful for the opportunity to share on tonight. I will turn it back over to our moderators, Mr. Vernon Garrison and Reverend Andra Cunningham.
Greetings, everyone. We will start from left to right. You will have 1 minute to briefly introduce yourself. Thank you for being mindful of our time. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Brad Murphy. I'm running for U.S. Congress here in District 1. From Raleigh originally, grew up in North Carolina, married for 42 years, have 2 very successful adult children. But the main qualifying reason I'm running is I'm a 3-time global tech entrepreneur. I've created over 5,000 jobs globally, both here in the United States and across the world. And I have a vision for turning Eastern North Carolina into something that's never been before, a place where people not only want to stay and live, but grow prosperity and have opportunity and don't have to see their children leave for more urban centers to pursue their dreams. I'll talk more about my specific policy ideas and approaches to creating that future, but I see a bright future for Eastern North Carolina, and I'm running to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sandy Robertson. I'm currently the mayor of the city of Rocky Mount. I have spent a lifetime primarily in business, creating many jobs throughout Eastern North Carolina. Specifically, my platform for the first district would include providing infrastructure, economic development, as well as providing opportunities for us in many, many different ways. Again, my name is Sandy Robertson, and we'll go through policies a little later. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Brent Robertson, and I'm a logger and a contractor from Williamston. I'm married to my wife, Anita, for 21 years. Together we have two kids. One is 19 and one is 16. And when the 16-year-old gets finished playing baseball in the afternoons when he gets out of school, he tends 125 acres. I'm not a politician, and I never wanted to be a politician, but that all changed back last November when I was praying and complaining about the state of our country in the same breath. And the thought came to me, if you're not willing to do anything about it, stop complaining. So I stopped my prayer and I sat there in bewilderment, wondering if that was me or God. And after just a few minutes, I said, well, God, if you're asking me, who shall I send? Send Brent. So from that minute on, I've been running for Congress. Again, like I said, my name is Brent Robertson. Appreciate it.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ernest Reeves. I'm from right here in Greenville. Graduated St. Augustine's College. Got my commission through Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I retired from the Pentagon. Had a great opportunity to serve as an escort officer for Ambassador Paul Bremer when he was in charge of Iraq. I took him to see the Secretary of the Army, Secretary of Defense, and I did special duty at the White House. I took him to see President Bush and most of his cabinet. And many of you all have voted for me before. I ran for governor in 2020. I won the 3rd Congressional District in 2016. Also ran for U.S. Senate twice. And so I've been across most of these counties in the state, and now I'm running for 1st Congressional District. The difference is this time as a Republican. Last year I decided to do that because of some of my views that I didn't like where the country was going. But I know that I'm very, I support Medicare and also support Social Security, and I will support you and fight for you if you elect me. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jason Spriggs. I'm a proud city councilman in Henderson, North Carolina. I've been involved in politics in North Carolina for about 15 years now. I'm turning 41 this year. And I'm glad that I have the privilege to run for this office. One of the main things that really pushed me into this race was the census data, reminding us of how poor we are. We are, in this district, one of the poorest districts in the state, if not the region of this country. And it's a sad thing. So I think we're all excited about the influx of money from the federal government. Everybody's talking about rural America, but in a couple of years, they're gonna stop and the money's gonna stop. And we need to make sure we have policies in place and somebody in DC who is going to continue to push for our district until we see census data that shows we are not the poorest district in the state. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good evening. My name is Julian Bishop, and I'm running for the U.S. Congress in District 1. I grew up in Red Oak, North Carolina. I'm a 25-year Navy veteran, Navy intelligence officer. I've also been a police officer in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. I've been a teacher, and I currently teach at Fayetteville State University. What I know is that my life's experience is what my grandfather always told me, and that is that the journey is the destination. And with that, I'd like to think that I bring some things to the table that when you open your ballot, if you've gotten it in the mail already, or if you are an early voter, beginning on April 28th or May 17th when you go to the polls, when you see my name, you'll understand and remember that what I like to bring to the table humbly is a combination of all those things: national security, infrastructure, crime, education, and economy. That's my professional life's experience, and I like your consideration in your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, panel. The economy is starting to grow now, and employers are telling us that they are having a hard time filling jobs. How would you address that here in North Carolina? Please be specific and brief as possible. Thank you, sir.
Specifically, I think we have a situation in our state where we need to pay careful attention to beefing up our education in terms of aptitude instead of graduating students. We had a huge effort, which was basically successful, to have a higher graduation rate amongst our students here in North Carolina. I think for the Black male student, it was under 60%. Now it's in the 80%. But we still have a problem, and that's aptitude. This is how that answers your question. Because when a business decides whether or not to come to a place, one of the things they look at is your educational data. And the fact that less than 5% of Black male students in many of our District 1 counties can read at grade 6 is a problem, because we can't expect them to improve that much more by the time they reach grade 12. So we need to begin with education. That's number one. Number two, we need to develop the infrastructure like one of the other Senate candidates talked about before. A business that wants to consider bringing business to North Carolina won't bring business here if we don't have not just 5G, but no G. A lot of times when I go visit relatives up in where the bishops are from, we come from Scotland Neck, and the Whitakers, the Whitaker side, my mom's side of the family up in Whitakers, there's no G, there's no coverage. So no business is going to want to come there. So if we want to bring manufacturing back to our district, we need to think about these things. And we need to think about these things in terms of not just having a manufacturing and service economy, but bringing ourselves into the 21st century economy as well.
Yes, sir, proceed. The same question.
Can you ask that question?
You need a question again? Okay. The economy is starting to grow now, but employees are telling us, or employers are telling us, that they are having a hard time filling jobs. How would you address that here in the state of North Carolina?
Well, a lot of people don't want to go back to these jobs because they were underpaid to begin with. And then you have COVID, and they were scared to go to these jobs where they were underpaid at because they didn't want to catch COVID. And they really don't want to return, or not sure how to return to these jobs. They don't make enough. Even a person who makes like the median salary for this district, which is around $38,000, $40,000 at the most, still has a hard time paying bills. That's a person who works every day in a job making that average salary. So if you have a person who's working those jobs and can still not pay the bills, utilities, food, clothing for their children, having a hard time with that, imagine the people who don't have those jobs, don't have the education, the degrees to get those jobs. They don't want to go back to work for these jobs. So what do we need? Well, we need well-paying jobs. You see on the news about these other counties outside of our district who are getting these international companies in who are bringing 1,000 jobs, 2,000 jobs. I mean, it's a really insane number. Those are the types of jobs that we need here. We have the workforce partners for that, the community colleges. You know, the community colleges we have provide that workforce training. So we have that type of infrastructure, but we need those type of jobs. I'll say this, we can't get a corporation to come to this district if we're anti-corporation. So that's something to think about as well. It may be good for like a larger municipality, but here in this district, we just want jobs, well-paying jobs. We don't care if it's a corporation. We don't care if it's a small business that's able to get started. So in a nutshell, well-paid jobs, and we have to stop targeting these corporations as if we're living in Raleigh or Durham. We are not. This is a poor district. We just want jobs, period, well-paid jobs.
Thank you.
Well, in this district, I would use colleges like this to do job fairs and to bring the most qualified people in and bring the employers in and give them what we have. Now, the problem is, like I always advocated when I ran for all the offices I ran for extending unemployment benefits because they had cut it. Most states could go up to 26 weeks. And I advocated for this when I ran for governor, that we should extend it out in North Carolina. But what happened was during the pandemic, they gave everybody $600 for those people that were unemployed, and met the qualification. So most people got somewhere between $10,000 and $14,000. Now they have the tax credits out there, and it's getting good to them. A lot of people are getting unemployment benefits, and unfortunately, we want people to go back to work. We don't want to stop unemployment benefits, but at some point, we have to, switch it around so people can go back to work. So I advocate making sure that, those individuals that are qualified and need the unemployment benefits, great. Those individuals that need to go back to work, we need to get them back to work. A lot of people are not working because they don't have to work, because they are drawing benefits. And I don't, and I'm not sitting here, as a Republican saying, not pay them the unemployment benefits, but some states, and there are signs that say that they have cut those benefits from extended out back to a certain amount of weeks, people are starting going back to work. But I advocate for making sure that we bring the employers in, do things like this here, have job fairs, spread the word, and I'm willing to do that throughout the first progressive district. In addition, if you elect me, I'm willing to bring companies in here because I believe I can work across the aisle, and I will do that.
Thank you. If the candidates would pull the mics a little closer so we can capture some good audio. And candidate Brent, you are next.
Okay. Yeah, so to be quite honest with you, I don't know where all the workforce is gone. When I go to McDonald's every morning, there's nobody there at McDonald's. And I know during the pandemic, people were supposed to be getting paid $600 extra because we've never been in that situation before. So they wanted to make sure people could be able to pay their bills and stuff. But now, from my understanding, all that's supposed to have been taken out and people shouldn't be getting it anymore. So I really don't know how to it's kind of twofold. I don't really know how to get the people to go back to work right this second. But in the long term, for the future of District 1, what you have to do, and you're going to have to, it's not a federal position, so what you're going to have to do is work with the state. But what we need to do, in about the 9th grade, kids, and I talk about this all the time, about the 9th grade, kids know whether they're going to go to a 4-year institution or not. The kids who are going to go to a 4-year institution, we already have that well planned out and everything. The other kids, in the 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade, what we need to do is, like there was another gentleman said earlier, we need to teach them, make sure they can read and write, but then we need to send them to, if they're interested in electrical or plumbing or welding or mechanics, any of the blue collar trades jobs that I do, we need to send them to a little pod so they learn something in school, and then we send them on to an apprenticeship during the day. What that does is that gives those kids good quality training. So when they graduate, they can go get a good job. You don't have to get a $20,000 job. The guys who run my loaders make $75,000 a year. It's a blue collar job. So we can do that, and that's what will grow District 1, is on the backs of the small businesses with good quality workforce. Oh, I had 20 seconds.
Yeah. So what I'll say is, Mayor of Rocky Mount, I have the opportunity to sit as part of the Executive Committee of the Gateways Partnership for Economic Development. As of this morning during our Executive Committee meeting, we have 79 projects on the board representing approximately $20 billion of capital invested, potential invested, creating in excess of 20,000 jobs. Unemployment is a challenge. Finding employees is a challenge. And so what we've done in that organization is create a thing called Ramp East. Ramp East imagines education slightly different. We're able to identify high school students or those even in middle school through programs such as our STEP. And we pulled together a number of community colleges from Pitt County, from Wilson County, Edgecombe County, Nash County, to help train people for the very basics in advanced manufacturing so they can be successful in these jobs. It's working. Now, part of the challenge we also have in terms of creating the economic opportunity is really the funding of I-87. Make sure that gets completed as quickly as possible, which would rapidly create an economic development zone that will stretch east from Nash and Edgecombe County all the way up to the Virginia line and the ports of Norfolk. Then it's about recruiting individuals to come to work in some of these jobs because we simply just don't have the population currently. So that's a big part of the challenge. The other issue that we're dealing with that I see also in Tier 1 counties in our region is that we don't have enough housing. So somebody's got to come about the process of figuring out how we're going to produce housing in adequate numbers to be able to support this population that is coming. Thank you.
So why don't you ask an easier question?
Okay, sure enough. the economy is starting. Did you need the question repeated?
I'm just joshing.
Okay.
So look, I live in the global innovation world, and if you're a successful innovator, one of the skill sets that you have to possess is to see a problem more holistically. The problem with policymakers and politicians is they want to reduce very complicated problems like inflation or unemployment or economic prosperity opportunities to a single problem solution set. And this is an example of one that has persisted for several decades in this district. It isn't going to go away with a simple policy solution. So let me talk a little bit about what any policy solution needs to contain if it's going to have any chance of success. Education. Well, listen, we've been talking about education my entire adult life, and we still haven't figured it out. So I think it's right that the politicians and the educators understand that education is key, but I don't think they understand how to solve the problem. The problem is what we're teaching kids and how we're teaching kids doesn't match what industry needs, which is something I'm pretty damn expert about. So what do they need? First of all, they need people who know how to learn. Now that sounds kind of crazy, right? But we're not teaching people how to learn. What we're teaching them is a bunch of nonsense. That first of all, the fact that most of our kids graduate in Eastern North Carolina, 78% without the skill set to hold more than a minimum job is disgraceful. So we have to get back to academic achievement, but teaching people how to learn. So what would it include? Digital jobs. There are $2.6 billion worth of jobs right now. And I have a program that I can take a kid in 4 months and bootstrap them into a digital job that exists right now. The jobs exist in this state, and they can be worked remotely. EV, green, aerospace, and micronuclear are the next 20 years of high-tech digital manufacturing, and it's going to occur in rural America. And policy can influence that to happen in Eastern North Carolina. I've got 4 or 5 other very specific ways that we could attack this, but I'm going to be out of time. So if you want to know more, come see me.
I could do it, general.
Okay. Gentlemen, with respect to our time in the crowded field, we'll ask one question and give you 1 minute to respond if you could be specific, and then we'll have closings because we do have the remaining candidates for your party. Reverend Cunningham will proceed.
Okay. Candidate Murphy, in 1 minute or less, can you tell me what steps must be taken to ensure voter integrity, transparency, and fairness in federal and state and local elections?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I sat down with a team, a research team from MIT 6 months ago, who posed the question, could we use advanced technologies like blockchain to bring greater integrity to the voting process? And one of the most profound conclusions they drew was, we could, but here are all the reasons why that could also be subject to hacking. And oh, by the way, the most easy part of the current way that we vote to commit fraud is mail-in ballots. So whatever solution Republicans and Democrats come to, I think what we can agree on is voting should be easy and damn near impossible to cheat at. I think we can all agree on that. The question is, how do we get there? I think we need to have broader periods of time for people to vote. I think that there needs to be a way to verify that if I vote or I don't even choose to vote, I know that my vote didn't get cast by somebody else. There needs to be integrity in the system. And I think we need to be very, innovative in the way that we use technology to be able to verify quickly at the end of a voting election window that all the votes that have been cast are valid.
Okay, thank you very much.
Very good.
Candidate Roberson, can you give me your views on Second Amendment rights and the right to bear arms?
My opinions on the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. Is that the question?
Yes.
I'm 100% in favor of it.
Okay,
I
is
like
that
it?
it?
I like the fish. I got nothing else to add to it. I agree.
That's good.
All right.
Look, that works. That works for us. Okay, Candidate Roberson, as you becoming the next congressman, how would you lead the fight to rein in inflation and restore fiscal restraint as far as the economy? Mm-hmm.
So what we have to do is, I say this a whole bunch, we always say that the money we're spending today is money that our kids are going to have to pay back, or our grandkids. That's ridiculous, because for us to be able to think that our kids are going to pay their debt and ours is just crazy. So what we need to do is rein in our spending. We don't need to spend more money than we take in. You do that at your house, we can do that at the government. It's ridiculous. We have to get our inflation under control and giving more money, giving you $400 gas cards that everybody probably says, oh yeah, I want a $400 gas card, will not make your gas go down. Giving out money will never make inflation go down. That's absolutely the 180 degrees from where it needs to be.
Okay, thank you. And the question for you, Candidate Reeves, has to do with increasing the minimum wage. I know that's one of your platform issues.
As I told everybody before, I'm always for increasing the minimum wage. Now, this state here, we have one of the lowest minimum wage in the nation. Even as a Republican, I believe that we should have a fair raise, but I'm not at $15. And I got into a big disagreement on my last campaign about it, and I'm still not at $15 because some employers just can't pay $15 out. But I do think in the first congressional district that $10 should be, the minimum wage. I would definitely vote to increase the minimum wage, help from the federal level. In our district, as he, eloquently said, is a very poor district. Now, Greenville is not the case, but as we all been on the stage together in a lot of rural districts, and if you go into those areas, you'll see that, there's a lot of, lack. And so I'm for increasing minimum wage. I'm just not at $15 an hour. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Candidate Spriggs, I know you have a strong loyalty to your local constituents, but I'm interested in finding out how would you balance the local interests with national interests?
Sure. It's a great question. So as a rep, our focus should be our district. And that's the main focus, regardless of what we do in DC, what we have to vote for, vote on. By design, 2 years, we're supposed to be held accountable to our district, but that changes because you have a candidate and you may know them and you like them, you'll elect them. In our district, we have one office to go see them or one of their representatives. That's in Wilson for 19 counties. So they're at a distance, and then they go to DC and they go in making $174,000 a year, and they're here. And we get mad at them, but we can't get them out of office because they're so connected. So it's important, one, we should probably be giving back a portion of our salary. I said up to 50% of mine. And I don't know. I'm gonna let him laugh. I'm gonna ask for a couple more seconds on that because I want to clarify something. So I felt like I was interrupted. So I just want to say something. Okay. So $174,000 will come. I'm gonna make it quick. We come in making $174,000. Our median salary for this district is maybe $38,000. If I'm giving back half of my salary, that still is going to leave me with about $100,000. I think I'll be okay. That's to show people that I'm still connected to them. That is the purpose of that. It's not a gimmick. I'm going to be okay. We go to DC anyway, and I don't make $100,000 a year. I'm a city councilman, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm going to ask you the question concerning our veterans. What more can we do for our veterans that have honorably served our country?
I really appreciate that question. I think one of the first things we can do is to set up for satellite clinics throughout what now constitute our 19 counties. The data shows that the satellite clinic infrastructure is distributed by the federal level VA. You can't hear me? How about that? Okay.
Yeah, that's better.
As I was saying, we need to set up and expand our satellite VA clinic system in our 19 counties. The data shows that works. The veterans like it, and it's a good thing. We also need to use more initiatives to pay attention to our veterans' needs once they transition from the service. That's also important. And we also need to make sure that we have different types of veterans. We have women who have served in positions that they never did before. They're coming out. And we have younger veterans coming back from war. All those things need to be paid attention to.
Okay, thank you very much.
Gentlemen, we have a brief time for closing remarks. Very brief. Thank you very much. You've done well. We'll start with you, sir.
Okay. Again, my name is Julian Bishop. I grew up in Red Oak, North Carolina. My grandfather, he sharecropped cotton. My mother worked in a cotton mill in Rocky Mount. I left North Carolina, graduated from Northern Nash Senior High School, and spent almost 30 years working at the federal level, serving my country, came back to teach, and also managed along the way to be a police officer in that time frame. What I'm saying is that I'm the candidate who's put handcuffs on criminals, and I've also chased down international criminals as well. I know how all these issues connect and come together at the local level. And I think it's real good to have someone in office who understands the nexus between the federal level concerns and what they mean and what those concerns mean to people who come from where we come from. I'd like to have your vote. Julian C. Bishop, May 17th.
It's a pleasure to be here. I thank y'all for putting this on and asking us these questions. We've done this for a year and a half. We challenged, Congressman Butterfield when he was still in office. We didn't ask permission or anything like that. We just did it. And like I said before, we did it because we're a poor district. We're poor. poverty is a terrible thing. It keeps you from sleeping, keeps you from making sound decisions. And so we can't just sweep it to the side as if somebody is going to go to DC and just solve that problem by themselves. It's going to take a concerted effort. Term limits, I'm giving back half of my salary. You're going to have me for 6 years, but I can't promise you much, but I can promise you this. When the next census data comes out in the next 10 years, we won't be like we are now. We've been poor for 3 decades. 3 decades. You should have a candidate saying something different, not the same thing.
Thank you.
Hello. Again, I'm Ernest Reeves right here in Greenville, North Carolina. I will not be giving back half of my salary. That's not going to happen. Okay, but I will give God his. I'll give it my tithes and offering. And I want to thank Aquila and AwesomeRadio. What an awesome job y'all have done putting this together. We have been at a lot of places around the district, and it takes a lot to get up here. But I just want to tell you all, even though I'm a Republican now, I know I am the 12th child. I'm a graduate of St. Augustine's University. I know where I come from, and just because I'm on the side does not mean you won't be taken care of. But because of my military background and my stance on the border, and my stance on fuel, and my stance on fighting for us, and my stance on the military, I can no longer sit back. So I'm Ernest Reeves, running for the United States Congress, 1st Congressional District, Republican, asking for your vote. If you vote for me, I'll make you one promise. I won't let you down. I won't let you down. I won't let you down. Thank you.
Again, my name is Brent Robertson, and like I say, I'm not a politician. I'm a small businessman. I've made my whole living doing successful businesses. I get asked all the time, and what separates me from the rest of the pack? And it's real simple. I worked in 18 of the 19 counties doing blue collar work, doing construction and doing logging. And it's real simple. I look like, and I work like, and I live like District 1. I am District 1. There's nobody else up here on the stage that can say that they're District 1 at the same rate that I am. The other thing people say is, Brent, when you get up there, are you going to change? And I always end with this here. I use Jesus Christ as my moral measuring stick. I used him today, I'm going to use him tomorrow, and I'm going to use him every day until I meet him and I go home. So I'm not going to go to Washington and compromise my values or his. So if you send me to Washington, I represent you, District 1, and God. Thank you. Vote for Brent Robertson, May 17th.
Hi, my name is Sandy Robertson. Again, I'm the mayor of the city of Rocky Mount. I am a solutions-oriented guy. I have created jobs in all 19 counties in the current district. I believe the district. I'm from here. I understand the values of the district. I believe that economic development is critical to our success going forward and building the infrastructure to make that happen through both highways and broadband access. In addition to which, we need to control the inflation rate, which I believe starts with creating energy independence for the United States, restoring former policies to create a reduction in the impact of the rising cost of fuel. Again, my name is Sandy Robertson. I'm asking for your vote on May 17th.
Hi, I'm Brad Murphy, 3-time global tech entrepreneur from Raleigh, living full-time, half-time in this district for 25 years and full-time the last 3. I'm a leader, I'm a visionary, I'm a disruptor, I'm a job creator. Very few people in Washington can claim even one of those things. It's time for fresh leadership. District 1 isn't just poor, it's been getting poor for 5 decades. There hasn't been a Republican to represent District 1 since 1883. It's time for a change. What have you got to lose? The vectors show that we're only going to get worse unless fresh leadership, new ideas, and innovation are brought to this district. I'm the most innovative, proven global entrepreneur who understands where all the new economy jobs are. And by the way, most of them are right here in North Carolina. We just have to build a bridge. My name is Brad Murphy, and I hope you consider me on May 17th. Thank you.
Thank you, panel. We do appreciate that, and we'd like to yield the seats to the second group of our House of Representatives for District 3. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Again, thank you. We're having a wonderful time just learning about our candidates and finding out more information. So while we are transitioning, we would like for you to know that this forum will be live streamed on the Awesome Radio website at www.wbisawesomeradio.org. Also on the Awesome Radio Facebook page and the Awesome Radio YouTube channel. Live streamed also on the GPAC TV 23 Facebook page and to play back later on GPAC TV 23, Greenville Pit Access Television Channel 23 on Suddenly Cable and on the GPAC TV 23 Roku channel. Learn more about GPAC TV 23 at www.gpactv23.org.
The congressman. They're kind of short.
Also, if there are any elected officials present who does not have an election in 2022 or may be a Pitt County Board of Education official, you are asked to stand and announce yourself. Is there anyone here, any elected officials present?
Thank you.
Also, we want to acknowledge
Thank you.
Erica D. Smith, U.S. House of Representatives, District 1 Congressional. We would like to acknowledge her at this time.
Does that make sense to you?
Impact it has on, oh, okay.
On government.
Okay.
Has on government.
I got you.
Hi, how you doing?
First,
Also, we would like to say thank you to Pitt Community College, Kickback Jacks Greenville, and Jersey Mike's Subs on Fire Tower Road for the refreshments on tonight. Again, to my immediate right, we do have refreshments for our candidates, and also we have refreshments for the audience in the far right side.
okay, that was left over.
Also, we would like to let you know that Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, Rho Zeta Zeta Chapter are located on the outside of the forum room for voter registration. So we do encourage you to stop by and visit the ladies at the table. We are getting ready to continue on this evening. Thank you so much for your attendance and also for your patience. And while we're waiting, we also would like to thank Life Communications LLC, Health Pro Home Care Services Incorporated, Lanika Bruinton, with Faith-Based Counseling Services LLC, Renita with True Image Natural Hair and Beauty Salon, Shirley Darden Gibson, AKA Lady G, Certified Aerobics Instructor Fitness at Home Ministry. We want to thank all of our sponsors, and we want to say especially thank you to those who made it happen. A special thank you to Akila Thigpen, who is the owner and operator and the founder of WBIS, Awesome Radio 106.9, who did a phenomenal job of orchestrating this for us on tonight. And now we turn it back over into the hands of our moderators, Mr. Vernon Garrison and Reverend Andra Cunningham.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Can we hold on 1 second, please?
Sure.
Okay. We have two that will be joining the panel.
All right. Well, we certainly appreciate your attendance this evening, and thank you for being mindful of our time constraints, as we've done very well thus far. And you have 1 minute to introduce yourselves briefly. Thank you. And we'll start at the right.
All right. Hey, I'm Don Davis, honored to represent Pitt County. So good to see everybody today. We've been working hard for you and for Eastern North Carolina, and I plan to continue on that journey as the next congressman of the 1st Congressional District. I will share with you that I have the background, the experience that has delivered for us, and I'm asking for your support as we move forward in this important election. Why? It's important now more than ever that we transform Eastern North Carolina and that we empower the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs so that we can realize and become the true region that we deserve to be and get our fair share in Washington, D.C. Vote for Don Davis in this important election. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Good evening, Pitt County and vicinity. I am Erica Smith. I'm a former 3-term state senator. Before serving in the state senate, I was a school board member for 6 years in Northampton County. I was born in Eastern North Carolina. I was raised in Eastern North Carolina on my family's farm, harvesting corn, cucumbers, and soybeans. I know what hard work is about. I have worked hard for my neighbors and with my neighbors for the last 20 years, delivering bold structural change. I want a government that works for all of us, not just the wealthy, not just the well-connected. As a former engineer, one of the hardest jobs I had was outfitting our men and women who serve our country with the best military fleet that they could possibly have to protect our freedom. I want to go to Washington, D.C. now and use those engineering skills to re-engineer those policies in Washington, D.C. so that they work just as well as for us as they do in the urban centers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Howdy, y'all. I am not running for Congress. My name is Justin Mullis. I represent the Barbara Gaskins campaign tonight. I am here to represent a candidate who was born in Beaufort County, raised in Pitt County, lives, and has breathed all of Eastern North Carolina all her life and has dedicated her life to prison reentry in this great part of North Carolina. Barbara Gaskins doesn't believe in partisan politics. She doesn't believe in left and right. She believes in forward, and she would like to work with y'all and would like y'all's votes so that she can go on to Washington and represent all of our interests. So thank you very much. I'm Justin Mullis on behalf of the Gaskins campaign. I'll get back.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Joe Swartz. I am running for the 3rd Congressional District nomination on the Democratic ticket. And apparently, I am the least well-dressed man on this stage. So with that in mind, I hope it won't influence what you think of me. And I'll only take this time just to introduce myself, personally. I am not, unfortunately, born and raised in North Carolina. This is my 2nd time back. My first time was when I was stationed with the 82nd Airborne over in Fort Bragg. And we're stationed down here at Camp Lejeune. Now I have hung up my uniform. My husband continues on active duty, patching up the Marines when they make dumb mistakes. Live over there with him and my in-laws as well, and our adopted son. And we're hoping to have our 2nd child adopted sometime this summer. We just dropped off the dossier down to Columbia and got sent down today. So looking forward to those things and looking forward to the opportunity to get to know you a little bit better through a policy lens.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Tony Cowden, and I'm running for U.S. House of Representatives in the 3rd Congressional District. And I accentuate the word representative over the word Congress. The word Congress means meeting. Well, I don't think many of those meetings that they have in D.C. are yielding results. A representative is supposed to advocate for their constituents. I'm from this district. I was born and raised here, and I live in this district. My father was in the seafood business. My uncle's a farmer, and I joined the military. I've spent the last 25 years as a Green Beret and in the special operations community. I have almost 10 years of my life deployed to combat for our nation. So when you hear politicians talking about they're a fighter, well, I question that sometimes. Like I said, I'm from this district, and I will represent this district.
All right, thank you, panel, for those introductions. I have a general question I'd like each one of you to address, and this is a question coming from the audience, perhaps via Facebook, or perhaps even in this room. How do you suggest we keep students in Eastern North Carolina after graduation, and more specifically when it comes to East Carolina University or Brody School of Medicine?
Jobs. The federal government is supposed to facilitate, not regulate. The regulations, we see it all over Eastern North Carolina, and especially in the fishing industry. And now our farmers are suffering just as badly. Georgia, just south of Charlotte, is the home to so many different manufacturing plants, from aerospace to vehicles, so on and so forth. North Carolina continues to not offer corporations tax breaks and other incentives to locate here. A very good friend of mine, Navy SEAL Jocko Willick, he opened a factory over just north of Moore County. Well, I'm the type of guy that can bring that type of manufacturing here to this district. We have the global transport between New Bern and Kinston, and it typically sits idle. It's sitting there ready for business to come in. And as an advocate, representative of the 3rd District, I'll do everything I can to bring those jobs here.
Thank you.
So I would echo something similar in the sense that, yeah, jobs are very much the key to getting people to stay here. I mean, I grew up in a rural area. My hometown was 700 people. I went to school in the same building from K through 12. So I get the idea of, you have to leave once you grow up and get your education. There are a lot of ways that are really low-hanging fruit for us to do. And I think one of the focuses of, the next representative for this district needs to be that they are helping the communities take advantage of as much of that infrastructure money in the bipartisan infrastructure law as possible, making sure that counties and municipalities are not hamstrung by the inability to write proposals, have subject matter knowledge, or coordinate amongst themselves. Being the clearinghouse, I think, is important to make sure that congressional representative is facilitating the growth of jobs that ultimately do keep graduates in this district.
Thank you.
So, I did it to you now.
Is that my
I would like to echo what they have said. 100% it is jobs, but speaking as a current East Carolina student, I can tell you that what the young people of this country need right now is economic flexibility to be able to stay in areas like this. And that starts by freeing up us from our debt and canceling student debt so that we have the money to invest in East Carolina. Yes, we need jobs, but we need money to stay here as well because of the cost of living and because we are in such crippling debt that we do have to move to other more affordable areas in order to A, find jobs, and B, find a healthy standard of living. So if we want to keep students here in East Carolina, 1, let's invest in small businesses to bring jobs back to this area, and 2, let's cancel student debt to help curb the immense weight of debt off of our students' backs.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would begin where Justin ended. Eastern North Carolina is one of the is the 15th most impoverished district in this entire nation. We've lived in systemic poverty for the last 30 years. The reason why is that everybody is moving out. While we saw record growth across the state of North Carolina, we lost opportunities and residents in NCO1. The way that we're going to bring it back is, yes, cancel student loan debt. Also do what I did as a state senator, lock in the tuition so that families can have predictability and price control. I also am running on a rural New Deal that brings universal broadband, universal health care, expanding Medicaid so that we can create that revenue and bring those jobs and keep our rural hospitals from shutting down. Being able to create good paying jobs by raising the minimum wage, but creating good paying, clean energy jobs, building the energy freedom that we need for our future. It can be done just as I've done it as a state senator. I will do it as your next congresswoman.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask, could you read the question again, please?
Sure. How would you suggest that we keep students in Eastern North Carolina after graduation, more specifically when it comes to East Carolina University and the Brody School of Medicine?
All right, thank you for that question. Let me be clear, there's no one running for Congress in the state of North Carolina that knows more about this than I do. Because why? We delivered on the new Brody School of Medicine, and that is something that is huge for all of the counties, especially in rural North Carolina. What essentially it's doing is increasing the student population from by 40 each year so that we can get more healthcare providers in rural communities. I'm proud of that. I took some hits for it, but we got it done. But we can't stop there. We have to expand Medicaid. That's why I negotiated provision to bring that back in the short session. And let me be clear, if we don't get it done in the short session and you send me to Congress, we will make it happen. We're going to get it done, even if we have to look at federal options. This is essential. It's about 3,200 new jobs, $619 million in new revenue, and 95,000 more people getting access to health care in Eastern North Carolina.
Thank you. All right, we'll now have individual questions from Reverend Cunningham, and you will have 1 minute to respond. Thank you.
Yes. Tony Cowden, Kenneth Cowden, I'd like to ask the question. You've stated that the word politician these days is not a nice word. I'd like to know, what are your plans to make it a nicer word? And how do you plan to contribute to the integrity of the office of Congressman?
Yes, ma'am. I have said and continue to say that the word politician, and I think most folks in this room would agree, is not usually used in a polite context. And it is all about integrity. We see time and time again, and we heard a fellow say earlier, that DC changes people. Well, that's not my take. I've been to DC quite a few times, and it's never changed me. DC attracts a certain type of person that doesn't have integrity in the first place. It's an ugly business full of PACs and corporate and special interest monies. That integrity as a representative, as an advocate for the people of the 3rd District, that's how you return that integrity. Instead of working for the Speaker of the House, no matter which party, or working for a caucus. Well, if I'm hired, elected by the people of the 3rd District, I will advocate and flip that integrity back around by simply working for the people.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Candidate Swartz, what can be done to bridge divides and bring voters together to meet on a common ground?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something that I've, encounter a lot, especially, I grew up in a rural area like this. I've lived in large cities like up in the DC metro area, and the two sides have just sort of lost that common ground. I think part of it is just around building policies so that they're focused on incrementalism, right? Instead of trying to pass a huge sweeping bill all the time, which seems to be a common policy or a common move for the parties, there are a number of policies that Americans have broad agreement on. Start with those and work your way towards some sort of larger shift, right? I think ultimately we fight so much about the big sweeping policy that we forget about the pieces that we're all relatively in agreement on. That can help build some good faith between two sides in this country, and I think that's something that we're lacking. We need some common ground that's restored through collective wins.
Okay, thank you. Sir, representing candidate Barbara Gaskins, she is real big on rebuilding the middle class in Eastern North Carolina. If you're familiar with her platform, can you discuss that a little bit as far as innovation and blue collar jobs in the place of agriculture?
It's like I was talking about earlier. We need to be investing into small businesses in Eastern North Carolina in order to give the working class, the middle class, the chance to stand up again and really be the backbone of this country. We have seen jobs leave this area. We have seen young people leave this area for a very long time. And the way that we do that is through investing in grassroots organizations to start building upon themselves and not be investing in large corporations to come in and really sweep up all of the workers and all of the money and all of the resources in this area. We need to get back to small businesses, locally controlled things, and we need to really put money back into Eastern North Carolina. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Also, candidate Erica Smith. Given the number of congressional members who have worked on Wall Street as opposed to unpaved streets, as you have mentioned, as you stated, how will your representation differ?
My representation will differ because I am a member of the working class. I know what it is to struggle. I know what it is to have more month than you have pay left out of your paycheck. I will do that by making sure I'm fighting for delivering for the middle class, as Justin shared. And that's done by advancing policies that I did as a state senator, rural advanced manufacturing, bringing our jobs back to North Carolina instead of shipping them off to China. How we do that is to make sure that we are holding our representatives accountable. Our congressional people are briefed every morning, and they take that information and they go out and they trade. Some of them trade on that information. We have got to cut off insider trading. That's why I'm the only candidate in this race who's sworn off no corporate PAC money. And also I have sworn to not trade or own stocks as your next congresswoman, so I can work for you and not my own unjust enrichment.
Thank you for that answer. And one last question for candidate Davidson. You're going to get the question regarding the securing of our borders. What is your position on securing our borders, and how can that contribute to more robust competition with our country's workforce?
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to be clear here. Immigration reform, in my opinion, is not a Democrat or Republican issue. But what we've seen play its course nationally is partisan politics on both sides. We've gone too far on it, and meanwhile, we've failed to do anything. That's the truth, and we need to accept that. I believe when we talk about immigration, it's a broader question than just exclusively the border. I believe we must have comprehensive immigration reform. And what I bring to the table is an ability to come in and to work through issues. That's what I've done as a legislator. As a legislator, I have passed, as a primary sponsor, over 90 bills that's been signed into law. It takes efforts, building relationships, and really getting into the weeds of the policy, and I'm willing to do that if given an opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, panel, gentlemen and gentle lady. We now have 1 minute for closing remarks. Please be brief, and we appreciate it. Thank you. We will be starting from the left side.
Again, I'm Tony Cowden, and I'm running to be the representative, the advocate for the people in the 3rd Congressional District, Eastern North Carolina, my home. 3 major industries: farming, fishing, and the military. I have a background in each, and I'm a small business owner. I understand what it's like when inflation wraps us up and holds us down. The federal government has grown far, far too large. Our Constitution clearly states what our federal government is authorized to do and what it cannot do. And our representatives, leading up to just now, they've ignored it. They use our Constitution more like a napkin than what it was intended to be, the law of our land. On each and every issue out there, I can only look to 3 things to how I'll vote. That's our 10 Commandments, the Constitution, and my constituents. Thank you, Tony Cowden. I appreciate your vote.
I am Joe Swartz, and I am running to get the Democratic nomination for the 3rd District, the 3rd Congressional District in North Carolina. You will be presented with a number of choices in this campaign. They will be choices that span the ideological spectrum, and most of them will run to the extremes. And that is what has put our country in the state that it is in, by trying to skew policy positions to where we face one extreme off against the other, and people feel like they have to vote for the sort of least evil option. And I believe we can do better than that. I believe that we can build a coalitional campaign that brings together people of good faith, people who are interested in seeing our country prosper, and who understand that public policy making and the way that we build our future is through consultation, negotiation, and ultimately some form of working together. Joe Swartz, 3rd Congressional District.
Thank you.
Do that anymore.
When Barbara Gaskins asked me to come and work on her campaign, she said one thing to me. She said that a car can only go forward when all the wheels are working together. Barbara Gaskins wants to take all of Eastern North Carolina, all of Eastern North Carolinians, bring them together so that we can create a coalition of the working class to go into Congress and represent our issues at the national level. I will be proudly voting for Barbara Gaskins on May 17th for the U.S. North Carolina House 3rd District, and I hope that you will too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Awesome Radio, for sponsoring this forum. Thank you to our wonderful moderators. Hire Erica Smith to be your next Congresswoman for the 1st Congressional District. I've represented 11 of the 19 counties. Every last one of those counties became less economically distressed under my leadership. I have spent the last 20 years paying my dues and learning the tools, earning this opportunity to make sure you have a champion who's going to put you first. I'm running to represent the community, not corporations. I'm running to represent people and not profits of big business. I have answered so many questions, and I just want to leave you with 3 questions of my own. Do you want an America that feeds its families from family farms and not corporate farms? Do you want an America that leads the world in taking on with bold climate action? Do you want an America that guarantees universal health care, universal broadband, a good paying living wage, an America where everybody has access to clean air, clean water, and a roof over their head? If that's the America you want, you can't spell that America without Erica. I'm Erica for us, one of us for all of us, one of us who will fight for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Too many kids I've spoken with have said they're leaving and they're not coming back. They've lost hope. They've lost a sense of being able to live and raise their families right here in Eastern North Carolina. And we have not always gotten our fair share. I'm asking you to look at the candidate. If you are concerned about Eastern North Carolina, look at the candidate who has the passion to get it done. If you're concerned about Eastern North Carolina, look at the candidate who has the record of getting it done. If you are concerned about Eastern North Carolina, then I'm asking for you to vote for Don Davis, who will get it done. We can no longer stand back and watch what's taking place, but we must join together and get it done. Don Davis, get it done. Vote for Don Davis. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, panel. You are relieved. We do appreciate you. And I am getting the message that we do have.
Yes, we do
a couple
have
more
an
candidates.
unconfirmed candidate that is here today. We will give her 1 minute to introduce herself, and then we will turn it over to you moderators.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I can do your
Yeah,
question.
do that, and then I can, I
Do a
have,
specific question.
yeah, I'll do something, like I have some questions.
Testing,
2 minutes? Oh,
Testing 1 2.
testing, testing, 1, 2.
Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2.
all right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a candidate. You can proceed.
Hello. Okay, it's
Introduce yourself. You have 1 minute.
my name is Alicia Rose Catherine Hammond. I am a candidate for U.S. Senate. I am the youngest candidate on a ballot since President Joe Biden in 1973. I'm 33 years old. And North Carolina has never elected an African-American senator in 233 years, so that's why I'm running. I'm a graduate of Winston-Salem State University. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, and that's my introduction. I had to work, that's why I'm late, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I have a question for you. What advancements would you like to make, or would you make to improve the life and welfare of rural constituents in this district?
To improve the life of rural constituents in this district, it's rural, so of course I would help farmers, and especially Black farmers. I heard that was an issue that needs to be handled and addressed. Of course, schools and clean water, Wi-Fi and technology, childcare, transportation, whatever would help. Pay raises as for minimum wage, and I want $15,000 pay raise for all state employees. I'm a former correctional officer, so I know what it's like to do professional work and still not get paid enough, or do minimum wage work and not get paid enough. But I'm willing to help you grow. I know what it is to live like in the country. My grandparents, they were teachers in Henderson, North Carolina. That would be what I would do. And I also would educate us on running for politics, because you don't even need a high school diploma to be president of the United States or any of these people you saw up here. So why there's only one African-American, or never been African-American U.S. Senator, that's a big problem. So I would definitely educate our people on getting in politics, whether it's rural or urban. It's important. And if y'all want to change these rural areas and urban areas, especially for minorities, then you have to start becoming the politicians, so you can change the laws. And that's what I would do to help Pitt County or community.
Thank you.
I think that's good, unless you want to ask another general.
Okay, well, we will give you 2 minutes for closing remarks.
Yeah.
My name is Alicia Rose Catherine Hammond. That is the way you will see it on the ballot. Hammond, like Hammond Road, Hammond. I want to help. My slogan is people over politics. I'm a God-fearing young woman. I'm very educated. I want to help you. I will not go into all of the different categories, but education is important to me. Healthcare is important to me. Reparations is important to me. Rights is important to me. Justice is important to me. Clean water is important to me. So anything that is good is important to me. And my main goal is to get you involved, because it takes more than the people that you vote for. It takes everybody. And it takes more than just telling people what you want. If we could get y'all behind us, you will have a bigger outcome. This room should be full with people. So I want to represent you, but I also want to get people pumped up so we can make some real change. Vote Alicia Rose Catherine Hammond for United States Senate. I want to be your first African-American senator and your youngest senator in 233.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't forget we got pictures.
Thank you. We would also like to remind you that if there are any other elected officials present who does not have an election in 2022 or may be a Pitt County Board of Education official, you are asked to go ahead and come forth, and we will give you 1 minute to introduce yourself. Okay. All right, we want to thank Mr. Vernon Garrison and Reverend Audra Cunningham, wonderful moderators. We're so thankful for them. A wonderful job. And thank you to all of the candidates. Also, we want to say again, thank you to Pitt Community College, Kitback Jacks in Greenville, and also Jersey Mike's Sub on Fire Tower Road for providing refreshments for this event tonight. Also, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, Rosetta Zeta Chapter, thank you so much for voter registration. Sharice Board, we want to say thank you to Life Communications, LLC, Health Pro Home Care Services Incorporated. We want to say thank you to Lanika Bruinton, Faith-Based Counseling Services, LLC. Thank you to Renita Stanford, True Image. Thank you to Shirley Darton Gibson, Certified Aerobics Instructor, Fitness at Home Ministry. Coach Garrison's office, we want to say thank you again to him and Reverend Andra Cunningham. So we're getting ready to move to our second part. And again, we would like to thank you so much for coming out. This forum will be live streamed on the Awesome Radio website at www.wbisawesomeradio.org. Also on the Awesome Radio Facebook page and the Awesome Radio YouTube channel. Okay, we are getting ready to start with our second half, and we would like to introduce the moderators. And the moderators for the second half are Mr. Jermaine Columbus, former host of the Joshua Generation Talk Session and frequent guest speaker for Kingdom Conversations on WBIS, and also Ms. Renee Boston Hill, the host of News and Politics Today with Renee and Calvin Boston Hill, also hosts Politics Today, past president of African American Caucus. Thank you to both of the moderators for the second half. We will now turn it over to you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening. We are going to be starting with the introducing Ms. Paula Dance, who's running for re-election for Pitt County Sheriff. All right. Sheriff Dance does not have a primary, and we're just going to allow you to speak on your past and what you've done. We do have a question for you, and just let the audience know what you've done so far as an incumbent.
Okay, I am Sheriff Paula Dance. I am your current elected sheriff of Pitt County. When I ran for sheriff in 2018, that made me the first African-American sheriff for Pitt County, the first female sheriff in Pitt County, and the first African-American female sheriff in the state of North Carolina. I have over 30 years of experience as a law enforcement officer, working my way through the ranks, ending up in the administrative area as a major before I decided to run for sheriff. So happy I stepped out on that limb, the confidence and the experience, and being the fact that I was most qualified, I stepped out there and I did run for sheriff and run my election. Since I've been sheriff, there are a lot of things that I have accomplished. I believe in transparency, so it's important for me to get body cameras here in the county. It was transparency to our community so that our community gets to determine whether the actions that we took were appropriate in doing so. It was important also for our officers to be able to have that information to police themselves and to make sure that they're acting in a professional manner. One of the other things that I've done since being sheriff is, I've created programs within our detention center. So when I ran for sheriff, one of the one of the biggest things that I said, and my mantra was, I would be a sheriff for everyone. And so that includes people inside of our detention center who find themselves incarcerated there. So creating programs for those who found themselves incarcerated was very important to me, to give them the tools that they needed so that when the doors opened, they could be successful citizens of our community as well.
Thank you, Sheriff Dance. We appreciate that. Pertaining to those programs that you just stated, I'm aware that you've created a program called Sharp and Where. These are programs that are signature programs created by you. Could you give us the acronyms to those, and also can you tell us what the outcomes have been in the past 4 years of those programs?
Okay. So SHARP is called, well, that's the acronym for Sheriff Heroin Addiction and Recovery Program. We've also created WHERE, which is Women Empowerment and Recovery Program. Starting off with SHARP, because the population in the detention center is typically male, most men. So I started that program with them, and it's a comprehensive program. It's the most comprehensive program in any detention center in the state, which gives them the resources from within the community, resources such as access to GEDs, access to vocational skills, having people to even come in and teach them how to interview, what to wear to an interview. Unfortunately, there are some of the people who found themselves incarcerated did not have those simple things that most of us had. So we provide those types of resources to the community so that when they leave the detention center, they are able to use the tools that they were given inside of the detention center to go out and get jobs. We help them with re-entry. At some point, I realized that we were not capturing the female population, and that's when I started the WHERE program. Same program in the structure, but we also recognize that women typically, when they are in the criminal justice system, presents trauma-based issues that occurs in their lives that we needed to address through therapy. So those programs have had several success stories. It has been very beneficial. We've had people to get their GEDs since being in the detention center, and been able to go out and secure employment, because most of the companies at least require a minimum of a GED.
Okay. Well, final question. With Title 42 expiring in May, I know that your department will not be setting policy, but how are you preparing for the influx of immigrations? I do know that Ukrainians are already in North Carolina. Will there be any changes that will have to be made with the influx of immigrants or refugees?
Well, typically, I would not have any policy-making decisions in dealing with immigration as it relates to the policies. My job is the enforcement of any laws that may have been broken. And so the protection of people who are refugees that come here, that same protection will be extended to refugees, any immigrants that are in our community. I will be a sheriff for them as well. Anyone in this community, I plan on being a sheriff for and extending the same services, the same calls for service, and responding to their needs as it relates to law enforcement.
Okay. All right. Any closing remarks?
Yeah, so again, I am running to be your re-elected sheriff of Pitt County. And I would hope that you all will still continue to support me. Look at the job that I've done. I have not sat on my hands for 4 years. When I said I would be a sheriff for everyone, I've been that sheriff for everyone, to include those who are incarcerated inside of our detention center. These are the people who we get to meet them where they're at and provide those services for them where they're at. I would like to close by saying Please support me, continue to support me, and dance with me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, moderators, and also thank you so much, Sheriff Dance. We are preparing for our next session, but we would also like to remind you that we would also like to say thank you to Dr. Glenn E. Johnson, Sinclair Nicholson, Margaret Reed, Sylvester Bailey, Doris Bailey, Jermaine Columbus, Calvin Boston Hill, Renee Boston Hill, Timothy McCardell, Ronald Gillian, Mr. Naik, I hope I'm pronouncing the name correct, Austin Mowry, and student volunteers from East Carolina University. We want to thank you so much for coming out and making sure that this was a successful event. Also, thank you to Akila Thigpen, who is the owner and the founder of WBIS Awesome Radio. Okay, we are ready for the next session.
Yes, okay. We'd like to welcome NC House Representative, District 9. Okay. We'd like to move on to NC House of Representatives, District 8, calling upon Ms. Sharon McDonald Evans, Ms. Glorstein Brown, and Mr. Charles Jock Vincent. Mr. Okay, well, good evening. We'd like to welcome you and give you 1 minute to introduce yourself. We'll start on the left, Ms. Evans. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I am Sharon McDonald Evans, originally from Fayetteville, North Carolina. However, Greenville has been my home for over 38 years, and I certainly enjoy Eastern North Carolina. I thank you for the opportunity to serve you as a representative for District 8.
Hello, everyone. My name is Glorstein Brown. I am currently serving as mayor in Bethel. I am originally from Robinsonville, North Carolina, which is in Martin County. I have been an elected official since 1999. I have been serving as mayor since 2014, and I look forward to serving you as your North Carolina district representative.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to go into a general question that I'll be asking to both of you. Education has always been and will be a big issue for parents. What are the initiatives that you're thinking of and putting in place on education? What is your thoughts on critical race theory and book banning? We'll start with you, Ms. Brown.
Education is very critical, very important to me. I am a very strong advocate for education. I think there's no excuses now for anyone not to receive an education. We have a lot of resources out there, but I know there need to be more added to make sure that everyone can get a good education and that we have qualified teachers along with the needed help that are in the classroom so that the teachers can provide the proper help, that proper education for the students. I hear a lot of teachers complaining about not having enough help, having too big a size classrooms. The pay, of course, is not there for them, and we're having teachers that actually walk right out of the classroom in the middle of teaching. They just don't want to be there anymore. They can't deal with it. So anything that we can do to help the school system itself to make sure that things are done, I would greatly appreciate helping and working with someone to get that done.
Same question. Education has always been always has been and will be the big issue for parents. What are the initiatives that you're looking to put in place if elected but for education, critical race theory, and book banning. What are your thoughts on that?
So education is the foundation of our society. That's how we educate the next generation of leaders. That's how we educate people who serve us daily, and everything else. It is very important. Currently, North Carolina is about 43rd. It ranks 43rd in the state for education and teacher pay. That means we need to increase teacher salary. We need to also increase student spending. The money that we're spending on students is not enough. And then when you get into book banning and things of that nature, I think about some of the books on the list that I read as a child, and those things helped me mold into the person that I am today. I think that, yes, there are some things that we consider inappropriate, but as a parent, you have a right to have your child exempted from any section of that you don't like. It's just like when you talk about birth control in school systems and parents don't want their children to have that information, they can opt out of that. But I think that there are some serious things that we need to look at. And when you think about critical race theory, you need to go back to cultural diversity, and our whole country needs that. We all need diversity education and understand that whole process, because the United States is a melting pot. We don't have to look alike to get along. We're not alike. We're composed of many different things, and we know that because of slavery. As an African American and Lumbee woman, I fully understand. But those are some things that we all need to think about, and I know I'm running out of time, but education is extremely important. So some of the things that I do want to work on is increasing more money to the counties to provide a better education in the district, increasing teachers' salary as well as teacher assistants, and also increase the money that we use for student spending because it's not sufficient.
All right, we've had an opportunity to look on a little bit more about you, and we're going to ask some questions.
Yes, thank you to both candidates. This question is for candidate Brown. With your experience operating in a small town with limited resources while trying to increase economic growth, what have you identified as the limitations in District 8, and what steps would you take to overcome them to create economic growth?
Ooh, that's a hurtful part. Yeah. Yes, working in Bethel has been a real challenge. But what I will not take credit. I am a team player, so I will not say I'll say we. Working with a great board and a town manager, we learned that we need to get into the faces of the people that we are going to ask for the help and for the resources that we need. Telephone, Zoom is not it. So we had to go out and really let the people know that we were serious. We want our town to grow. We need growth, and we are beginning to see a shift because of visiting Washington, D.C., going to Raleigh, going right here in the county, talking to every resource that we have to make sure that our town grows, that our citizens get the resources that they need across the river, because we are north of the river and we have a lot of elderly people that cannot drive. So we make sure we bring the resources to them.
Wonderful, thank you.
And that's what I would do for my district.
Thank you, candidate Brown. This question is for candidate Evans. You mentioned the expansion of Medicaid on your website. Why do you think that our state has declined to adopt Medicaid expansion? And how do you plan to help other delegates and representatives see the need for it?
Okay. So interesting enough, Medicaid expansion has become a political issue. It's a Democrat versus Republican issue, unfortunately, but it's a human issue. Medicaid provides health insurance for people who need it. And we're in Eastern North Carolina, and our salaries tend to be lower than everyone else. You know how you hear the story about east of I-95. Well, we're east of I-95, but we're important, we're significant. And Pitt County is huge. Pitt County is the hub of all the rural communities. The other counties come here. Our hospital serves other counties as well. And so when you think about Medicaid provides insurance for the lower income people, and they need it. We've got 600,000 people in the state of North Carolina right now without health insurance because we don't have Medicaid expansion. We have pregnant women who can qualify for Medicaid, but only while they're pregnant. And now it used to be 60 days postpartum. Now it is 1 year postpartum. Right on time. I was not finished.
All right.
Thank you, Candidate Evans.
All right, we're going to ask, the infrastructure bill has passed. What is the number one priority, Candidate Brown? I'm going to ask you that. Number one priority in your district, where do you think they should start for infrastructure?
In my roads, I get calls all the time, not just for my town, but for my district, for other areas. Broadband is big. When you're still having people, because the data that I'm receiving when I go to meetings and conferences saying that Pitt County is doing okay with broadband, but when you're still hearing parents saying they're having to go to a parking lot for their children to do their work. And so, but that is roads and broadband, and those are the big two that I hear all the time in my area.
Okay. All right, Ms. Evans, we're going to ask you again, the infrastructure bill has passed. What is the number one priority you feel in your district?
So in our district, it's basically economic development. We need to invest in building up the rural areas. We need grocery stores. We need pharmacies. We need healthcare access. We need more clinics. We need more money into those programs to provide better care and better access for our people. And we definitely need transportation in the rural areas. We don't have that. A lot of our rural communities and towns do not have public transportation. We need that. So there's a whole list of things that we need that I'm going to advocate for us to get done, because we certainly need it. The good thing about the CARES Act, though, they have fought to add broadband access to people who don't have that, because you have more people at home, you have students at home who need internet access. So they've done that, and they've made that free or less than $30 for low-income families, which has been a blessing.
Okay. All righty. Well, we want to thank you all, and we're going to just allow you to give a 1-minute closing remark, and we're going to start with Candidate Brown.
I'd just like to say that, and I will continue to say that the energy that I use for my town, I will use it for my district. I am not a lazy mayor. I do get out and work. I work hard. And therefore, like I said, we are seeing a shift in my community. I know that there's a lot to be done. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. I would love to see Pitt County come full circle, because we should all want to see each other grow. We should all want to see things happen. And my thought is, if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. And you know, when you're on the menu, you're overlooked. So we as rural communities are tired of being overlooked. I will go to Raleigh. I don't mind talking. I do not mind talking to anyone that will listen to me, because it's not about me, it's about the people. And I'm here for the people. I'm going to listen. Communication is the key, and I'm going to do all I know to do. I know my calling, and I am a servant, and I am here to serve my district and my county.
All right, thank you, Candidate Brown. And Candidate Evans, we're going to ask you for closing remarks. And thank you again.
Well, I want to say thank you to you all for doing a great job moderating. Thank you, Awesome Radio, for providing this platform, because I think we need more forums to hold these conversations with people. But more importantly, I want you all to encourage people to get out to vote. We need people to get excited about this election. I know it's not a presidential election. People are not that excited, but we need you to get out and vote. And outside of that, you need to understand who I am and what I do. I am a person who has advocated in this community for over 38 years. I have made the impossible possible in a lot of scenarios. I have worked with the legislators. I've worked in Raleigh. I know that and understand that I don't need a learning curve, because I know exactly what to do. And my list is long, but it is thorough, and I definitely will get it done. My motto is people over politics, and I absolutely mean that, because I am one of the people. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Candidate Brown. Okay.
Thank you to the candidates, and also thank you to the moderators.
Okay. All right. We're now going to host NC Senate District 5. Looking for Ms. Candy Smith, Mr. Lenton Brown, and Karen Kozel.
And while they are coming, we want you to remember Don't forget, early voting begins April the 28th through May the 14th. If you are unsure where you should go to cast your vote on May the 17th, 2022, please contact the Pitt County Board of Education at 252-902-1000, 1717 West 5th Street in Greenville. We will now turn it back over to the moderators who are doing a fabulous job on tonight.
Well, good evening and welcome to the candidate forum. We are going to start from the left, and we're going to just ask you to give us 1 minute and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Lenton Brown.
Move the mic.
Okay, my name is Lenton Brown. I served in the United States Navy from 1982 to 1991. I've received a bachelor's degree in political science with a minor in psychology from East Carolina University. I studied real estate at J.Y. Monk. I'm a licensed broker/realtor. And my professional experience includes working with United Real Estate East Carolina. I'm a member associated with the National Association of Realtors, the North Carolina Association of Realtors, and the Coastal Plains Association of Realtors. And I'm a former corrections officer. I've been a corrections officer. I was a corrections officer for 8 years. And I'm also a veteran.
All right, thank you. Candidate Smith, could you just give us and tell us a little bit about yourself? You have a minute.
Thank you so much. Thank you to AwesomeRadio. I appreciate you continuously making sure the people are informed, and thank you to our moderators. My name is Candy Smith. I am your current House District 8 representative serving Pitt County. A little bit about me. I got into politics about 14 years ago. Started by serving on the Greenville City Council in District 1. Then I served as mayor for the city. And then I ran for the House, and I'm now serving my second term here in the House. I realized that when Senator Davis decided to run for Congress, the Senate seat was vacant, and we needed someone who was a strong, passionate, willing to speak out and be bold fighter for Eastern North Carolina. And so I took that upon myself that I needed to step up to the plate. And so now I'm here running for Senate District 5. Thank you so much.
Okay. We have a general question for the two of you, and it starts with voting suppression bills have passed in over 19 states. NCSB 326 Election Integrity Act, are you familiar with that, this bill?
Yes.
Okay. Is currently being voted right now in the state Senate. This bill has a direct effect on mail-in ballots. It reduces the time of requesting and returning a ballot. As a lawmaker, will you support burdensome measures that hinder the rights for people to vote? We'll start with Ms. Smith.
Okay, so absolutely not. I currently am one of the primary sponsors for a bill in the House to fight against that, because we have, and I'm on the election committee. That's one of the committees that I serve on in the House currently. We have been fighting against that. We see the voter suppression. We see when people actually come out to vote, they make a difference. And when they know that they make a difference because there's access, they're trying to restrict the access. And we've seen these bills come all across the country, and so we knew they were coming here. And so I worked with the committee to try to come up with something that we could put out first. And of course, they didn't listen to our bill, but we're going to continue to fight. And when in Senate, I'm going to continue to fight because I have some strong partners in the House, because I served for the last 4 years with individuals. We were on the committee together. So what I want to do is make sure that while in the Senate, I continue that fight and make sure that we collaborate together for them not to do it. Now, when you don't have the majority, I just want y'all to know that they can still pass it, but they have to have a supermajority in order to override the veto. So I stand very proud to say that we have been able to uphold every veto that the governor has done. And so that has kept bad legislation out of North Carolina. And many people don't know that and don't think about that. So we would have already had those voter suppression bills there if we did not stand together and stand united and vote against those pieces of legislation that they're trying to put out. And we're going to continue to put our own legislation out that we think is going to help us, like automatic voter registration, and not having people to have to worry about, well, did I register? We want them to be automatic when they turn 18. Making sure that we keep the absentee ballots without having an excuse, because they're trying all kinds of things. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your response. All right, would you like for me to repeat that question?
Sure.
All right. Voter suppression bills have passed in over 19 states. NCSB 326, the Election Integrity Act, is currently being voted right now in the state Senate. This bill has a direct effect on mail-in ballots. It reduces the time of requesting and returning a ballot. As a lawmaker, will you support burdensome measures that hinder the right for people to vote?
Okay, as a lawmaker, I would not support any bill that interfered with any individual in this country or in this state with their right to vote. I think instead of trying to make it more difficult for people to vote, if we're truly the democracy that we say we are, we should be doing everything humanly possible to encourage people to participate in our system so we can say that it really truly is a democracy. And when you're restricting people's right to vote, I mean, basically, you're basically destroying your democracy. That's all you're doing in time. And there has to be representation, and people need to feel that their votes count, that they matter, and they have to feel that their votes matter, you know, in terms. No one should have more, no one's vote should count more than another person's vote.
Okay. So we're going to ask first. We're going to ask some, a little bit more personal, direct questions.
Thank you to both candidates. This question is for candidate Brown. Most candidates run for an elected position based on their life experience. What experience elevated you to run for office?
I think the experience that most elevated me to run for office is basically working with the Department of Corrections, seeing inmates brutally beaten behind closed doors, seeing officers praying for simply witnessing something of that nature. And to talk to candidates, I won't name them by name, people who are running in that should be having our backs, and they're too timid to deal with those types of issues. So that's the thing that prompted me to take and get involved in the political process. I mean, there has to be justice and there has to be representation for everybody, even if it's an inmate sitting in a cell. I mean, we all have to count. And democracy depends on that.
Thank you, candidate Brown. The next question is for candidate Smith. On your Facebook page, you stated that it is important to explore innovative ideas to make our families and communities stronger. What ideas have you explored in the past and are planning to explore in the future?
Well, one of the first ideas I explored was raising minimum wage. And I suggested as a primary sponsor that we do it by 2025 because I knew we would get pushback. And so instead of the business owner saying we can't afford that, let's do it over incrementally. Well, what that does, it allows families to be able to function and eat and take care of themselves. Affordable housing is real. We have issues where people who are working every day are living in hotels. And so anything that I can do to help the family stay together and stay strong. And if you've seen my platform, mental health, I think that we are not aware of how bad mental health is. We have heard about it, but now there's so many suicides happening. And these are not just suicides of adults, these are suicides of kids. Here in Pitt County, we've had many, and that's 5 months of isolation can do a lot to the mind. And on my way back here from Edgecombe, because I was at another forum there, I just read about a family of 4 where the father shot the 2 children, 4 and 8 months, and then shot the mother, shot himself, and burned the house, started the house fire, and shot himself, and said he felt like someone was following him. It went to the sheriff's station. So mental health is a big thing. And when we ignore it and we think it's taboo and we can't say it because people will think we're crazy, then we have problems. It is important that we do what we can to put people first. And those are some of the things that I'm working on. Those are what I consider innovative. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. One final question, and then we'll have closing remarks. One of the things that people are concerned about, and there's conversation about out there, is food insecurities. With farms not farming as much as they have, as a legislator in the Senate, is there a role for you to help with food insecurities or making sure that there's enough food for people here in North Carolina? We'll start with you.
Okay. Thank you for that question, because food insecurity is a very big issue. And with inflation, we have more people than we know that's dealing with that. And a lot of people won't say anything, but we have areas all over. I know Cornerstone just opened up, St. Mary's, and a lot of other churches are starting to open up because they see this need. So one of the bills that I've been fighting for was HB 59 and Senate Bill 67, which is the food commercialization funds, and that's for a commercialization center in Aden. What we want to be able to do is, in our own area, package our own food here and be able to get that out. So I've been working on that and working on other bills because people need, that's a basic human need. If you look at Maslow's, is people being able to eat, right? And if they don't have that, then we're going to have other issues because that's going to lead to crime and everything else. So I'm 100% on board to make sure that we're taking care of that. That's why it was important that we got the funds out during COVID so people could feed their families. And we need to continue to do things like that because you pay taxes and you pay them for a reason. And we need to use the money that you give us to make sure that we take care of you in your time of need. And something like this pandemic, a lot of people have been in need.
Thank you, Candidate Smith. Candidate Brown, the same question. If elected.
Can I ask a question? Can I respond to her previous question? Would that be possible? Because I didn't get a chance to respond to that.
No, the questions are directed for you, okay? All right, if elected, how would you deal with food insecurities here in North Carolina?
What we have to do is to realize that not only deal with food security, but we have to make up the gap worldwide. We've got to get farmers planting, we got to get them producing, and we need to be able to ship food overseas to some of the countries. With the war that we have going on, it will create a food crisis worldwide. And so this is giving our farmers an opportunity to actually become the breadbasket of the world, just like Ukraine was the breadbasket for Europe. And so we have to do more to get people involved in agriculture. We might even have to get more immigrants. We have to let people come in and immigrate to work the land and things like that. And there's going to be a need for that. So we need to continue to develop our resources in this country. And we need to make sure that people hold on to the land, that we help farmers hold on to the land, maybe with grants and things of that nature. But it's important that we realize that we have to do our part in making sure that we become the breadbasket, not only for North Carolina, but our state and for the world. This is our opportunity to step up in agriculture and meet the world's needs.
All right, thank you so much, Candidate Brown. We're going to have closing remarks, and we're going to start with you, Candidate Smith.
Okay, thank you so much again for this awesome forum. I think it's important for the electorate to know who they are electing to represent them. One of the things that you'll understand about me is I'm willing to make sure that I continue to be transparent, to be a bold voice. I often stand out and say things that other people won't say. Why? Because you elected me. And when you tell me you want me to fight for you, that's what I believe in doing. I want to make sure that I continue to share my work. I want to continue to share my vision and my desire, and that is to make sure that I continue to put people first. So I encourage you to go to my website, Candy Smith with a K, candysmith.com, and look at my platform issues and find out more information about me. And I encourage you to make sure that you go to the polls and vote for Candy Smith for Senate District 5. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Candidate Smith. And Candidate Brown, we're going to ask you to have closing remarks.
Okay. One of the things that I'm running to enact is free tuition at all the community colleges and at state colleges. I want to enact a $15 minimum wage, legalizing permitless, concealed, and open carry. And we need investments in economically disadvantaged areas throughout the county. We have to expand Medicaid. We need significant and meaningful pay increases for all of our state employees. And we need representatives who represent the people justly and fairly. We need energy independence in North Carolina. And we need to end this abominable practice of taking people's homes when they've used, maybe if they're poor and they got sick and they had to get state aid, taking their homes from them, because it happens quite a bit after they have died. And then term limits. I want to see term limits as well.
All right. We want to thank you, Candidate Brown. We want to thank you both for coming and sharing your views with the audience. This concludes the candidate forum for NC State Senate District 5.
We would like to say thank you to all of the candidates. Thank you again to the moderators who did a phenomenal job tonight. We want to say God bless you to each candidate and have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Okay, so let's take this off. Turn this off.
There it is.
Right inside. The light is still on. Okay, let's move it away.